Hi, Calvary Moravian Church kids. Things have changed, haven't they? Okay, I've gotten your attention. You've noticed something different about me. You thought, wow, I've really missed church this much. No, it hasn't changed that much. There's lots of great filters on Zoom. Maybe your parents are using it. But sometime we're going to all get together and try out some of these fun filters. But now that I have your attention, I think I'll bring myself back to what I usually look like and say hi. Calvary, we're sending this special message out to our children just to say hi, to say that we miss you, and to share a little bit about today's worship service, a little lesson of what we might have done on a children's message, a little bit about our scripture and what it teaches us both now and as we walk through some, uncertain times together. So I remind you, as I reminded the congregation this morning, we just went to all virtual. We went back to our Zoom worship. You can find that via the Zoom address that we send out each week at 10:45. We worship together every Sunday, but it's also live streamed to YouTube. And so you can watch it anytime on YouTube at our Calvary Moravian Church Allentown YouTube channel. So thanks for watching us now. I promise I'm going to keep this brief, but just to give you a little bit of an update, to say hi, and to talk about our scripture lesson for today, which for me was all about fear. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get afraid. Sometimes I get afraid about what other people will think about what I say. Sometimes I get afraid about things I see that I'm not sure how to react to. Um, Sometimes I get afraid about very real things, like COVID, and trying to figure out, how to best be safe and keep living in this uncertain time. And so I think fear is good to talk about, because the more we talk about it, the more we can understand how to live with it and how to let it not control us. And that was what the scripture passage was all about today. So it was a story that Jesus told, and he told it right before he died, which we know was on what we call Good Friday. And of course, he was then resurrected on Easter Sunday. So probably on the Wednesday before he died, he told this story to his disciples, and he was trying to get them to imagine what life was going to be like without Jesus as an earthly teacher being around. He told them this story. It's called the parable of the talents. A talent is simply a word that means a big unit of money. So it's a lot of money in Jesus' day would have been called a talent. Now, a talent in our day might also be something that we do, like you have a talent for singing or you have a talent for drawing. And I know that you all have some really special talents. So maybe we can think about the story in that way too. So it's in Matthew 25, chapter 25 in Matthew's gospel, starting with verse 14. And let me just summarize it. It was about a master who had 3 servants. And to one of the servants, he gave 5 talents, which is just a crazy amount of money. To one, he gave 2 talents. And to the last one, he gave 1 talent. And he left and he went away on a journey. And the first servant said, I am going to take these talents and I'm going to trade with them. And I'm going to do my best to get out into the world and do something with them. So maybe he made more money, or maybe he just invested what he had. But he did something, and he left his house and he got out into the world and he did something with those talents. The second servant did the same thing. But the third one, when he was asked, why did he leave his house? He said, it was because I was afraid. And he admits, and all of them admitted, that the master was kind of scary. He was kind of a frightening guy. And he was a little scared of what would happen if he lose his talent. And he's done some bad things to other people in the past. So he was scared. And that's pretty legitimate. But because of his fear, he was so afraid that the fear paralyzed him. And that means it crippled him. It made him that he couldn't leave his house at all. And so he was so afraid that he merely hid. And when the master came back, he only had the 1 talent. And the master wasn't very happy about that. So sometime after this, about 1,900 years after this story was written, we had a wonderful man and inspiring leader in America named Dr. Martin Luther King. And you probably heard of Dr. King. And he wrote a whole bunch of sermons. He was a pastor first, and then he became a civil rights leader and did amazing things for our country. But he was a pastor first, and he wrote a sermon called Antidotes to Fear. An antidote, you might know, you might not, is what you would take to counteract the effect of poison. So let's say right here, this is a strange example, but let's say I ate a poisonous pumpkin, right? Pumpkin's a little weird looking. So if I ate a poisonous pumpkin, I would need an antidote, which is something, a kind of medicine to counteract the poison so that the poison wouldn't affect me and I'd be okay. So King said, well, what's an antidote to being afraid? What can we do to counteract, to make sure that the fear we have in life doesn't cripple us, doesn't keep us from living? And he asked these really important questions, and he settled on a few things that we could use. And I wanted to tell you a story about the first one, because I thought it was kind of interesting what happened to me this week. So I'm going to take you over into our living room to tell this story, and you can see what happened to me. So this week I got up, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was still pretty dark out. Sun was just coming up. I didn't have my glasses on, and can't see all that well. Now we have a cat, and our cat often not often, but sometimes catches mice and sometimes leaves those mice in various spots. And so I'm a little afraid when I see something I don't know, but this something was pretty fuzzy and it was pretty dark. And I'm going to show you what it was. And this is just about how it was. You probably can't see it very well because it's pretty dark in here. Let me just hold it up a little bit to the camera. You see what that is? I'll put it a little bit more light so you get an advantage and you can see. You can probably see what that is. Now to me, when I woke up and I saw this, that's a good view. It was kind of like this. I didn't have my glasses on and it was pretty fuzzy and it was pretty dark. And I could have reacted in two different ways. I could have been really afraid, which I was, and I could have allowed the fear to keep me from going into that room. I could have run out. I could have screamed or just shut the door and not been able to really walk into the kitchen, which meant I wouldn't have been able to make me coffee, which would make me pretty miserable in the morning. Or I could say, well, let me keep this in perspective. That means let me think about this. Let me maybe put my glasses on. Let me turn on a light and see if there's anything that changes. This is a real fear that this thing here might be a real live mouse. It might be a dead mouse, or it might be a mouse that's not even dead yet. But if I put some light on, will anything change? And so I did. I put the light on, put my glasses on, and I looked a little bit carefully at this mouse, and I realized that instead what it was a very realistic looking mouse toy. And you can see our cat used to have catnip in it and ate the catnip out or licked it out. Only has one ear. And that's about it. So I thought about this and I thought about what Dr. King said. And I realized that he had some really important things to teach us about fear. So when we have something that we're pretty afraid of, and legitimately so, like this very realistic looking mouse, maybe sometimes it's good to turn on a light, to think about it a little bit, and to say, yeah, I should be afraid of that, but also let me look at it again and not overreact. Sometimes, Dr. King said, the thing to do is to remember our faith. And he said, when you're a Christian, when you have faith, it's not about all of a sudden being a follower of Jesus means that nothing bad's ever going to happen to us. That the bad mice aren't going to show up on our living room carpet, or that we won't fall and skin our knee, or that somebody's going to be mean to us at school, or that difficult things are going to happen. It doesn't mean that life is always going to be perfect and just the way we want it. And that's really difficult to hear because we want to have, be as comfortable as we can. And that's really natural. On the other hand, Dr. King said what faith is about, and having faith in God, is meaning that we know that people have been through difficult times before, but God has been with them. And we know that we will go through difficult times, or we are right now, but God is with us. Having faith means that we're never left to face those fears alone. And King said, if we know that, then that's an antidote that will counteract all of the fears that we have. It doesn't mean that they're going to go away and we're not going to be scared about different things, but it means that we'll have someone, and that's Jesus, to walk with us through those fears. So just like I turn on a light, I put on my glasses, and what I was afraid of turns out to be, a not so scary, dismantled cat toy mouse. Sometimes that's what it means when we, allow Jesus to walk with us, allow faith to be our antidote to fear. So I wanted to share that with you because I think it's a great lesson. And it's a little bit about something we talked today. We talked a lot more about Dr. King and his great sermons and some other ways that we counteract our fear. But I hope that helps you, because life is sometimes scary, but we can get through this. Even though we're not together in the same space, we are still church, because wherever we are, Christ is with us and will walk through us. So remember that, even though we can't be in the same building right now, that we are virtual and we are still church together. So I wanted to share as I close the hymn that we ended our service with. This is called Our God, Our Help in Ages Past. And it's an old hymn, and it's one that reminds us about this truth that God was with us in times long ago, like in Jesus' time, when scary things were happening and Jesus was preparing to leave his disciples. And God will be with us in years to come, it says. Our shelter from the stormy blast, or our shelter when things are upsetting and stormy, and our eternal home. So a place that we always have. So sing along if you like. I'm going to share this with you. And I hope that you might sing and share this. And again, thanks for joining me in this little children's message and worship time.
Oh
So again, it was great to be with you all today. I'll send out another one of these next week, or just check back on our Calvary Moravian Allentown YouTube channel. And be sure to look in the mail for some Advent crafts that will be coming your way shortly. And we'll try to get together soon. Be well, be safe.